That was very 90s.
So No Wahala Sports, right? So the idea, so No Wahala Sport is really just trying to shed light, appreciate, celebrate a lot of the African athletes and players that are currently currently play in American sports. If you have paid close attention to what's happening in sport, it's a lot of African players in these leagues, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at an NBA, WNBA, NFL, college football, college basketball, even in the MMA, and I thought that it would be a good idea to have a space where they're celebrated, right? And not just celebrate, but literally tell their story about how they came to be here. It's a topic that's also really dear to me because that's sort of me, right? Granted, I didn't play pro sports or what have you, but just coming from another country at the age of 10, right?
Yeah.
And then falling in love with American football, not knowing why or how, but just knowing that it really helped me to assimilate within the culture with my friends, and just the different back and forth and things I had to go through with mom to even get that to happen, right? The stories behind those athletes, and not necessarily just pro athletes either, right? So we'll celebrate the pro athletes and hopefully get some of their stories, but definitely get stories from athletes who, like me, who like either to play high school ball or I play college ball, or different levels of. How did you come about? How did you end up from Bafut or Bamenda or Yaoundé? How did you go from Bafut to the NFL, or Bafut to playing high school football, or Yaoundé to playing basketball, or wherever? How does that story come about? Celebrate the players that are in the league. Celebrate the Christian Okoyes, the one that came before, the Akeem Olajuwons, the Manutes, the Dikembe Mutombos, you know. All the players, all the players that came before, that sort of like paved the way, you know?
Yeah.
Sort of trailblaze for a lot of these other athletes to see that these things are possible. And I think those athletes should be celebrated and their stories should be told, like their backstories, right? Not the stories that we hear every day. There's a backstory to every athlete, right? Particularly growing up in an African household, right? And also utilizing this platform just to talk about like the culture, right? Somehow the culture is weaved into this culture, into the American culture. How that happens, right? So how do you maintain your own culture while trying to fit seamlessly in a culture that you're living in day to day? Right? All those things, you know. So it's really a show about stories. And of course, sports.
Yeah,
but
sports stories.
It's really a show about stories, our stories, their stories, just stories about African athletes in America. And I hope that it can something that we can use for laughter, and more laughter, and more joy, right? And more understanding. And in the midst of that, you know, in the midst of our sports stories, there's also our stories as Africans that we all have. We can definitely share some of those stories as well, and just get to know the athlete. Excuse me if I'm looking at where Serena's on the screen. Pardon me.